everyone, and welcome to the Koala Club podcast, a podcast made by and for international students in Australia. I am Kevin.
And I am Trang, and we talk about everything education, work, and lifestyle for overseas students in Australia. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Koala Club podcast. This is episode number 15, and today we are going to talk about scholarships. Hi Kevin, how are you? And are you interested and excited about this topic?
Yeah, hi Chang. Yeah, I'm good and I'm very excited about this episode. Both of us was a scholarship recipient before in our uni. So definitely very excited to share with you about these scholarships and how to get them.
Yeah, definitely a topic of concern for many international students.
So I know there are two sources of scholarships. The first one is from the Australian government themselves. So the Australian governments have these policies and scholarships to offer for international students every year. And then the second source is actually from the university or education providers themselves. So each university will have different scholarships that they offer for international students, and this comes from their own funding.
Yeah, so the starting point, I guess, for international students is to look at this studyaustralia.gov.au website. So I think we've mentioned this website previously, but we'll put this link in the show note. But it's essentially a government website for international students where you can search for scholarships based on where you're from, so where your nationality is, and your field of study. So then the search results will come up with all the scholarships by university. So that's a good starting point. And then that's where you can do further research as to like which unis appeal to you and that. And then I guess the second source of research is the actual websites of the Australian government. We'll delve further into these Australian government scholarships later on in the episode, and we will include these links in the show notes.
And for the university scholarships, you can access directly the website of the universities for their informations. Also, you can contact education agencies, both onshore and offshore. Now, this may be a base guide for you, but we recommend do not rely heavily on them because not all agents are knowledgeable in scholarships and their requirements. And some of their recommendation may also be biased because they receive more commission from one uni than another.
Yeah, so the websites of the unis is probably your best source of truth.
Let's kickstart with the Australian government scholarship, shall we?
Yeah, so there's a few government scholarships available for international students. We'll skim through it. There's a lot more detail behind this, so we recommend you check out the links we put in the show notes if you're interested in these types of scholarships, but we'll just outline them. So I guess the first big category is the Australian Awards. So this is, as Kevin mentioned previously, it's backed by the Australian government and their policy. So some people may know and refer to this as Australian aid. So there's a few like subcategories within this big umbrella, but just overall, like the Australian government offered 2,075 scholarships and short courses to individuals from 27 developing countries for 2022, just to give you a picture of what the scope of this scholarship is. So the first subcategory is the Australia Awards scholarships. So this gives opportunities to citizens of certain participating developing countries for undergraduate and postgraduate study at the Australian institutions. So some of the benefits could include full tuition fees, overseas health cover, and living allowances, just to name a few. So very good benefits given by this scholarship. And it's usually given to those that are studying in areas that are considered priorities. So depending on their nationality, there is a condition, though there are a few conditions, but I think the main one is you have to go back to your country for a minimum of 2 years after your course. The second subcategory, I guess this is not as relevant for our listeners, depending on where you're from, but this is called the Australia Awards Pacific Scholarships. So this is only specific for people education institutions from their own region, and this is just to contribute to like the country and the area that they're from and their development.
In addition, they also have Australia Awards short courses. So these are intensive training for specific areas. Normally they are less than 3 months durations. The next one is what they call the ACIAR. It's short for Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research Fellowship Scheme. This one is for scientists from partner countries involved in the ACR, supported research projects to obtain postgraduate qualifications at Australian tertiary institutions. Now the next one is Australia for ASEAN Scholarships. This is selected few from the ASEAN country to undertake master degrees in priority fields of study. Like we mentioned, all this just an outline, and we will link to the actual Australian government website for the more details about these scholarships. And if you're interested in a particular one, we suggest really read into it and find out what exactly is the benefits, the full benefits and the requirements.
And the next sort of big category of scholarships given by the Australian government is called Destination Australia. So this is a relatively new scholarship initiative, but this is for both domestic and international students to study in regional Australia. So there's about 1,000 scholarships given each year for those who are studying in the regional campuses. And these are for qualifications from certificate 4 level and above. So that will include your uni degrees as well. So this is a set amount of dollars. So it's $15,000 per student per year. But this is, I guess, different to the Australia Awards, as we mentioned above, because this is also given to domestic students as well.
And the next one we have here is Australian Government Research Training Program, or short for RTP, Research Training Program. It is a scholarship for the PhD and master level. It is a funding to support both, again, domestic and overseas students undertaking research doctorate and research master degree. This scholarship replaced Australian Postgraduate Awards, International Postgraduate Research Scholarships, and the Research Training Scheme from 2017. In terms of support, it offers full offset for tuition fee, so that means you don't have to pay any tuition fee. You give a certain living allowance or called stipend per year for the duration of the higher degree by research. So if your degree is 3 years, it gives you like a stipend every year for the next 3 years. This research training program allowance with associated costs with the research include relocation costs. So if you need to relocate to a city, for example, to undertake your degree, it helps you with relocation costs, some printing and academic publication costs, also health cover costs for the recipients and their dependents. So this one I think is a very big one, big assistance, because as we know, OSSC, overseas student health cover, is really expensive, and this scholarship actually cover your OSSC and your dependents. So that means if you've got your wife or your children, they also cover this scholarship.
Yeah, so I think the overall conclusion from these Australian government scholarships is that they're very generous, because most of them would cover your tuition fee and living allowances and health insurance and all that. So definitely a big initiative for people to come to Australia to study. But the only quirk is that you have to be studying in those high areas of like priorities that will like obviously develop and be of benefit to your country or to Australia.
All right, so let's move on to the next category of scholarship, which is specific uni or education provider scholarships. So why don't you kick us off with that, Chang?
Yeah, so this is, I guess, an area we know a bit more about because we both got scholarships from our uni, UW. So this is sort of, I guess there's no set rules that you can, I guess, apply, because the amount of scholarship is different depending on each different university or education provider. So this could be a percentage discount, say 20%, 50%, although I think 50% is a little bit less common these days. Or it could be a set dollar amount, like say $10,000 a year. So when you're comparing between unis, you need to do some maths to see, okay, what's 10,000 over 20,000 tuition fees? That's 50% discount essentially. But in addition to that, some unis do have an additional incentive where if you're from a certain country, so your nationality, that can give you an automatic scholarship as well. So with these nationality-based scholarships, usually there's no separate application required. So they just assess it when you apply for the course itself and then just grant you the scholarship. The academic scholarships itself is based on your previous academic marks. So this is like your higher percentage scholarships. So if you've got high marks, you've got a better chance of getting these higher scholarships.
Yeah, definitely. The safest way to actually secure this scholarship is to have a really high academic performance from your hometown when you were studying the grade before you apply for uni, and also have a high English test mark, which is IELTS mark. Talking about academic performance, you need to also check the conditions to maintain this scholarship, because a lot of them have the condition during your study to maintain it. For example, you need to maintain a certain average mark throughout your course of study, maybe above 70 or 75%. And a lot of scholarship actually need you to maintain the mark for each subject above, say, 75, for example. That means you can do very well in 3 subjects or 90 mark, but then if one subject you drop to 70, they actually have all the right to cancel your scholarship and not keep it. So those are the conditions you need to be aware of, because when you assess between two university scholarship, for example, one university may give you a little bit less, but maybe they don't have this, or the condition to maintain it may be a bit lower. So if you're not sure you can meet that high score all year round, maybe it could be a safer option to go for the lower requirement to maintain scholarship. Well, the basics of the assessment, like I said, is academic scores. So some uni may ask for additional supporting documents like statement of purpose, social activities, experience, or achievement, but the majority of them is through academic score. So really study hard and do well in your hometown program before you apply for these scholarships. And the big one is all these unis and education provider can actually change their scholarships yearly. So make sure you checking their website for the most up-to-date information on these scholarships, including the benefits of the scholarships and the requirement to maintain and the requirement to apply for it.
Yeah, and I recall our episode with Miss Kay Osborne, where she was talking about the scholarship assessments in Australia, and she did state that like the academic marks are really, really important. Extracurricular activities could play a part, but not a major part, especially for Australia. So for the US, extracurricular activities play a bigger part, but in Australia, it's like the main focus is academic scores. And I also wanted to point out that some unis, because they offer these nationality-based scholarships and the academic scholarships, sometimes you just got to check the conditions, because sometimes they wouldn't give you both. So say if the nationality-based scholarship is 10%, academic scholarships is 25%, they can only give you one scholarship. So say you'll get the higher amount, which is the academic scholarship. So it's not 10 plus 25 is equal 35. So just got to check that too.
So it's not like how you're collecting coupon, you're collecting a few scholarship and add up. Hey, I got 100% scholarship.
Yeah.
Give me my education for free. Okay. Anyway, it's coming back to the application paperwork. So like we said, it's including academic result from your current school and previous grades, statement of purpose if required, and sometimes it's also good to include what have you done socially and what your achievement, like if you join some community club, for example, or if you make a podcast for international students, for example, like this, it would also help as well. It's highly recommended to get an education agency to help you with this process, because they are very familiar with this process of hunting these scholarships, so they can make sure that you have all the documents required. Now, a little bit about the statement of purpose or personal statement. What is it really? So the basic of it, the fundamental of it is actually just you writing about yourself and show the university that why you want to apply to this university, what are your ultimate goals, and how this course you apply for will help you achieve it. And also the next point is simply why the university should award you this scholarship instead of others. It's really like a document to open up and sell yourself. So sell your, your achievement, your goals, your mission, and also how this would benefit the university by giving you this scholarship.
Yeah, that's definitely what the statement of purpose is for. Like, that's the purpose of it. But do check the websites of the uni sometimes, because they will give you an outline of what they expect you to write about in that statement of purpose. But if they don't say anything, then that's sort of the general guide we've given you, like what points to like sell yourself on. And this is the chance for the uni to get to know you and see if you're a valuable student and asset to them, and yeah, if you can contribute to their uni and do well.
I know that some students apply for like higher than bachelor level have some more documents about themselves. Can you elaborate on that first?
Yeah, so I think when you're applying for postgrad education, especially for masters by research or PhD, they would require you to submit your CV or resume as well, just to see what your experience is and what your background is, because that would be relevant too. Because if you're applying for a masters of IT but your background is accounting, they would need to know that and assess you based on that. So, and I mean, it's an extra document to sell yourself, so include that in together with the statement of purpose and in your application too.
Yeah, definitely. And especially for the like PhD level, where part of the assessment is like your future, the potential future professor or supervisor will assess like if you are gonna be a good fit for his research team, for example, for this project, then he will definitely need to see your CV or your resume and see what you have done in terms of academic, and also if you have any industry experience outside that relevant to that project.
Yeah, and your previous research topics too.
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so once you've got your application all ready to go for your scholarship, then you just basically apply to the university direct. If that's how you've applied for your normal application, just add on your scholarship related documents. But if it's the government scholarships, then obviously you would apply through the government websites. So yeah, just depending on the scholarship. And most of the time when you apply for the course itself, you would submit all these scholarship applications with it too, so that they can all assess it at the same time and make it more efficient, so they don't have to go back to you with, hey, you need more documents. And plus, if they have to go back to you for more documents, that doesn't set a very good impression, because then they're like, oh, maybe they weren't interested in the scholarships. Maybe they don't want to apply if they're not taking the first initiative. So you should apply for everything at the same time, have all your documents together and upload it all at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I think that's sum up our episode, and we hope this would be informative for you and helpful for you. And well, scholarship is a vastly variety and very big field. So, like we said, this is just an outline, yeah, and we do link a little bit of the websites for the governments and also university scholarships for you to review. Make sure you check it out, and if you're really serious about applying for one of these scholarships, make sure you understand all the requirements and what are involved in the application process.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys, for listening. And if you haven't already followed us or liked us on Instagram or Facebook, please do at the Koala Club Podcast. And thanks for tuning in. See you next episode.